Is Phillip Schofield secretly scheming behind the scenes, plotting a BBC comeback next year? Blinkerhole has discovered some information that suggests the disgraced former This Morning presenter could be doing just that, and it may have something to do with the results of the independent probe by Jane Mulcahy KC due next month, which could reveal further information on Schofield's relationship with a much younger runner. A recent article by OK magazine on August 21, 2023, mentions a source who told them that This Morning presenter Holly Willoughby is currently breathing a sigh of relief that Phillip's comeback strategy isn't set to happen anytime soon. That unnamed source has just given us two clues: one, that there is a comeback strategy, and two, that it won't happen soon. Further scrutiny of quotes from another two so-called expert sources in the same article reveal much more. One is from PR expert Mark Borkowski, who we discovered seems to have completely changed his tune about the future career of Phillip Schofield. Just 2 months ago, he made an appearance on GB News saying, "It's very, very unlikely that Phillip Schofield will find his way back onto mainstream TV." Yet in this very recent article he contradicts himself. Mark Borkowski, who incidentally is not only a PR agent, but a crisis consultant, who was approached by The Independent in July to give comment on the Hugh Edwards scandal, now backtracks, saying that Phillip Schofield will be out of commission for a year and that he wouldn't rule out a comeback. In the recent interview with OK, he says, "The photos of Phillip out and about have such collateral because people are waiting for him to do something and there is no need for him to do anything. If he's sensible, he'll be out of commission for about a year, and by then, people will have moved on and other celebrities would have found themselves being whacked. Then there is every opportunity to have a platform to recover. If he does anything now, it will bring back those negative headlines from May." He continues, "I wouldn't rule him out coming back on the TV. He's an entertainer, he's one of the rare people who can do live TV, so he has a lot in the tank. Never write an obituary for someone until they're dead." Interesting. So what has caused PR expert Mark Borkowski to do a complete U-turn on his earlier opinion that Phillip Schofield is very, very unlikely to find his way back onto mainstream TV? Something appears to have changed, and he is not the only expert to have changed their opinion very recently. The second source, brand expert Dermot McNamara, also seems to have recently changed his tune. Only 2 months ago, he reposted a tweet by a furious Twitter user in response to Schofield's admission that he thought homophobia was a factor in why people disapproved of his relationship with a young man, in which they said, everyone would have equally disapproved of his relationship if he'd groomed a young girl. Using the homophobia card as some get-out clause to excuse your terrible behavior is actually insulting. Dermot McNamara obviously agreed, quite rightly so, in our opinion. However, he also seems to have now somewhat softened his approach in regards to Phillip Schofield. Speaking to OK, he says, "I don't think he'll be wanting to come back into TV at the moment. He can get jobs on his own, he doesn't need Vanessa to get him a job at Talk TV. He's still bigger than Vanessa. If he wants to look for work, he probably will find it, because the BBC interview went relatively well for him. Most broadcasters would be a bit worried because they won't want to be seen rewarding bad behavior. Regardless of it being unwise but not illegal, this has huge duty of care ramifications on the people concerned. If anyone does decide to give him a platform again, they'll have to be careful." But interestingly, Dermot then goes on to advise Phillip Schofield to stay out of the limelight for at least a year because of the effects to his mental health, and the uncertainty of the results of the ongoing ITV investigation into the circumstances surrounding his exit from the channel. "I don't think it's the right time for Phillip to suddenly go back into TV," he says. "He should stay off for another year. He's probably enjoying a bit of a break, to be honest." So, there we have it. Brand expert Dermot McNamara suggesting that Phillip should stay off TV for another year and that his BBC interview went really well. And PR expert and crisis consultant Mark Borkowski saying if he's sensible he'll be out of commission for about a year. Could they be hinting at something? Where has this new idea of a year come from all of a sudden? Is it just their own opinion, or could they have insider knowledge, and could it have anything to do with those impending probe results? Let's find out. We discovered that brand expert Dermot McNamara has some very interesting connections indeed, and we know for certain that one of them is situated inside the walls of the ITV This Morning studio. Not only that, He has strong connections to GB News and ITV's Loose Women, the former workplace of Phillip Schofield's young runner. Dermot's comment, "If Schofield wants to look for work, he probably will find it, because the BBC interview went relatively well for him and that he should stay off for another year," now has much more credence than we previously thought. We believe that his words are not just his opinion, but are hints, based on information garnered via his many insider contacts. So who is Dermot McNamara? Really? A young autistic, gay man, according to his Twitter profile. A successful talent and PR artist, who began his management career aged just 14 and who founded his own company, according to a lifestyle website called Guys Like You. In a 2018 article they state, "Meet the incredible Dermot McNamara. Just 20 years old and already he is a major player in the media industry. While many guys his age are still trying to work out what they want to do with their lives, he is already overseeing the careers of the likes of pop legend Samantha Mumba, trans model Talia Eve and Linda and Maureen Nolan, with his own company Candid Publicity. Candid Publicity, we discovered, funnily enough, represents journalist and GB News regular, Dawn Neeson, who happens to be good chums with Eamon Holmes. She was one of the first to congratulate Eamon when he joined GB News, tweeting, "Wow. So looking forward to working with my lovely, kind and incredibly supportive former talk radio colleague again." Eamon Holmes, as we know, teamed up with Dan Wootton to launch a sustained campaign against Phillip Schofield and admitted that he and Ruth Langsford were supporting his young runner lover. Candid Publicity, founder Dermot McNamara, also states that his clients are varied and some have been in the business for 50 years. Another client of his is also of particular interest, Dr. Larissa Corder, the resident fertility specialist on ITV's This Morning, and it didn't take us long to find out that Dermot has recently been asked his opinion by Now magazine on Holly Willoughby's career amid the Phillip Schofield scandal fallout, which was picked up by The Mirror and OK magazine. When asked by Guys Like You how he went about setting up his business, Dermot said, "One of the people who inspired me to set up on my own was Melanie Blake from Urban Associates. I think her client list has always been incredible and she's managed to maintain a boutique structure, which is incredible. It's amazing now as she's a bit of a mentor to me and we share Linda and Maureen Nolan together. Urban are their acting agents, so it's an honor and privilege to work with someone you truly look up to." Linda and Maureen Nolan are of course Loose Women panelist Colleen Nolan's sisters. Melanie Blake, who also used to be Colleen Nolan's manager, is Dermot's colleague and, according to his Twitter, is a wonderful friend of his who recently replied to one of his tweets with a video clip of Thelma and Louise. Melanie Blake happens to be the super celeb agent and author who very recently gave her insider view to The Mirror on August 20, 2023, regarding the alleged toxic workplace at This Morning. In the article, Melanie Blake, oddly considering her connection to the Nolan sisters, appears to throw ITV's Loose Women under the bus, siding instead with This Morning and Holly Willoughby. The article states that Melanie Blake has dedicated 10 years of her career to representing various Loose Women presenters, often having the entire panel on the show as her clients. But when asked about the rumors of toxic daytime TV culture, she chooses her words carefully. "Considering I represented over 15 women on that show, I am only friends with Syra Khan," she revealed. "But I am in such a positive career space right now, it's just not a period of time I want to relive. But I can confirm in my experience, it's that show that's a cutthroat place to work and not This Morning. I was even on set the day Holly started and have been there hundreds of times and have never once felt on edge. But put a load of ambitious women together with a small amount of seats to fill and inevitably there is always going to be tension. Showbiz isn't all diamonds and rosé." She adds, "Despite the party line of the Loose Women having been the best of friends from day one, it's simply that, a party line. Just because you get a job sitting next to each other, doesn't mean you're going to be friends. There were a lot of egos in my era, so it's not a show I want my new agency to represent stars from again." Amazingly, throughout the entire interview, Melanie Blake manages to avoid a single mention of Phillip Schofield, but judging from her comment about being on set the day Holly Willoughby started on This Morning and having been there hundreds of times, it's fair to say she knows him and is at the very least in contact with his friends and associates and ITV staff. We also discovered that Melanie Blake knows Rylan Clark pretty well, after we spotted her jokingly tweeting him in June when he was forced to clarify he was not engaged to Rob Rinder, quipping, "And I'd bought a gorgeous hat as well." She has also been a guest of Rylan, who rates her as his favourite author, on his BBC Radio 2 show, of which he announced a break from 2 hours after Phillip Schofield quit This Morning. So what does all of this mean? Well, after obtaining this deeper knowledge of Melanie Blake's insider contacts and her close friendship with brand expert Dermot McNamara, the fact that Dermot works with the Nolans, Dawn Neeson, and ITV This Morning's fertility specialist Dr. Larissa Corder, his words and the timing of them take on a whole new meaning. In our opinion, now knowing his insider contacts, him hinting about Phillip Schofield's possible return next year, and mentioning how well his interview with the BBC went, hold much more weight. The fact that PR agent and crisis consultant Mark Borkowski, who happens to be a regular contributor to BBC Radio 4, also did a recent U-turn, saying that Phillip Schofield will be out of commission for a year and that he wouldn't rule out a comeback, does make us wonder, could they know something about the results of the independent probe? Possibly. Then we have Schofield's unexpected outing with Vanessa Feltz to unravel. Earlier, we mentioned that PR expert Dermot McNamara said of Schofield, he can get jobs on his own, he doesn't need Vanessa to get him a job at Talk TV. We agree, we don't think Phillip Schofield is interested in a job at Talk TV, however, we do think it's possible that their meeting had more to do with her previous employment, the 11 years she spent at the BBC, notably the radio show on Radio 2 which she only quit last year. Interestingly, back in January, just 4 months before the Phillip Schofield scandal broke, Vanessa Feltz was quizzed by Phillip Schofield on This Morning, after she accused the BBC of ageism following Ken Bruce's announcement that he was leaving Radio 2. After Phillip Schofield asked her why she thinks Bruce, 71, jumped ship after 45 years working at the station, she said, "I can't speak for him, but I imagine that it's a feeling of some sense of ageism at the BBC." Feltz, who is 60, claimed that older presenters are not valued in the same way, adding, "The music isn't as appealing because they've changed it to appeal to a younger crowd they are so desperate to get." When asked if she felt she was not valued due to her age, Feltz replied, "Yes, I did." Feltz then highlighted other names to have left the channel in recent years. Think of all of the people who have left. Paul O'Grady's gone. I've gone. Steve Wright's there, but not much. Chris Evans has left. Graham Norton too. The BBC told The Independent in response to Feltz's comments. Ken explained his reasons for leaving Radio 2 in his quote and on air. "We respect his decision and wish him the very best of luck in the future as he's been a much-loved part of the Radio 2 family. Radio 2 is hugely proud of having a range of presenters from their 30s to 80 years old on the station, an age range which hasn't changed in decades. In fact, Ken Bruce started presenting on Radio 2 at the age of 32. The statement continued, "We will continue to be a multi-generational radio station that serves a 35-plus audience with listeners tuning in each week to our brilliant range of programs. Hosted by some of the UK's best-loved presenters, we continue to play a wide variety of the best music from the past 7 decades, including from the 60s and 70s. Could it be said that now they are reportedly down by 1 million listeners, the BBC might be more open to possibilities? Will they be forced to admit their error and look to hire an older star who could, even through controversy, bring in millions of curious rubberneckers? And more to the point, could Phillip Schofield have remembered this interview with Vanessa Feltz on This Morning and spotted an opportunity to test the waters? It's not just us that believe that Phillip Schofield will use radio as his comeback tool to sweet-talk his way back into the public's good books. Brand and culture expert Nick Eade said from the outset that he believes that Phillip Schofield will return to radio. Back in May, he tipped him to return to the BBC, to lure listeners back to Radio 2, saying he's still a big name to many, adding that due to his past as a BBC Radio 1 DJ, the Beeb and commercial broadcasters are bound to want him. He's a bankable star. His popularity will see him overcome the current hurdles he's facing. Another broadcaster may take him on, or he will do radio for a while, as that's lucrative and popular too, and he has a great knowledge of music. Admittedly, Nick Eade's comments were made in the early days of the scandal, but could things be about to take an interesting turn? The independent probe, likely to be published next month, could change the lay of the land for Schofield. Earlier we mentioned that brand expert Dermot McNamara advises Phillip to stay out of the limelight for at least a year because of the effects to his mental health, and the uncertainty of the results of the ongoing ITV investigation into the circumstances surrounding his exit from the channel. Could Dermot know something about those investigation results that we don't? Is this what has changed, and why experts are suddenly backtracking on their opinions and hinting at his return next year, when previously it was said that any comeback was very unlikely? Let's delve deeper. ITV drafted in Jane Mulcahy KC to examine the facts around Schofield's relationship with a much younger runner in late May, and ITV boss Kevin Lygo recently spoke at the Edinburgh TV Festival, urging for no hasty judgment before the independent report, citing enormous media pressure to end people's careers. He also warned broadcasters about the pressure to sack people before facts had been established, saying, "You can ruin people's lives by acting too quickly." He said, "When it all flared up, we thought, are there things we don't know about? What's been going on? There's things we need to know. All these rumors and everything flying around, and we thought, we need to get to the truth of what's gone on. So we ordered an independent inquiry, and she has been looking at it, talking to everyone involved. They take your phone away, look at every text you've ever sent, emails, WhatsApps." On a lighter note, he joked about what his private messages may contain. "I'm sure nothing relevant to this inquiry will be revealed by my WhatsApps." He added he could have refused to comply on the grounds of privacy, and in a jovial tone said that he did not want the report to read, "This isn't the full report because Kevin Lygo wouldn't give us his phone. Correct us if we're wrong, but to us, this does not sound like a man who is worried about the results of an upcoming probe, but that's just our opinion." Lygo continues, stressing that he gave complete access to all of his messages. "I'm assured that any of it that's not relevant to this inquiry will not be revealed. I don't have a drug dealer phone. I just have a company phone. Everything is available." What an odd thing to say about his phone. Does it mean anything? Could it be a clue, or even a threat? The mind truly boggles, doesn't it? It is always worth taking the time to fully establish facts when dealing with accusations against individuals, Lygo continued. "I know these things can be frustrating. The most important thing is you get the facts and truth," he said. "There's enormous pressure from the press and social media saying, 'You've got to decide, and why didn't you fire him?' We don't know what the truth is yet. You can ruin people's lives by acting too quickly." We noticed that he mentioned accusations against individuals, plural. Could he be referring to Hugh Edwards and Dan Wootton by any chance? Well, yes, it appears he is. The BBC has recently come under fire for its handling of initial complaints against Hugh Edwards and has launched its own review into how it handles non-editorial complaints. Asked whether he would consider a cross-broadcaster initiative to tackle these types of issues, Lygo said he feels these projects can become complicated, and he thinks ITV is leading the way with duty of care policies due to having experience with it from shows like Love Island. He said that recent instances with Schofield and Edwards had shown there needs to be a focus on what's going on behind the scenes, as well as on camera. 10 years ago this wasn't even on the agenda, so I think it's a good thing that we're all assessing the right way to treat people, and a lot of it is common sense and decency," he added. Lygo, who has said the network will act accordingly once Mulcahy has revealed the outcome of the probe next month, also stated that ITV would be willing to look at any accusations against the GB News presenter Dan Wootton, if they related to his stint as a correspondent on the morning show Lorraine, saying, "He doesn't work for us anymore, so that makes it complicated. We haven't any complaints about it. If anything comes to light that was untoward while he was on Lorraine, then we should have a look at it. If you have watched our video, Connected, you'll remember that we had a suspicion weeks ago that the scandals of Phillip Schofield, Hugh Edwards, and Dan Wootton could be connected. There are many signs and oddities that link them together in our opinion, and it's very interesting to us that Kevin Lygo is now mentioning Hugh Edwards, Dan Wootton, and in particular, Love Island, which the late Caroline Flack presented and whose ex-fiancée was jailed for harassing Dan Wootton. He also mentions the timeframe 10 years. Is Lygo speaking in code? His words may have meaning if you read between the lines, and the fact that he said them just before the results of an independent probe into Phillip Schofield are published. Coincidence? To conclude, after reviewing all of the information gathered during our investigation, we have a sneaky feeling that Phillip Schofield is set to come out the other side of next month smelling rather better than he does right now. We also believe that he is indeed planning a comeback next year, but the question is, will he manage to get his foot in the door at Radio 2? Well, if their Facebook post in October 2020 declaring their love for him is anything to go by, possibly. Who knows, perhaps there will be a revelation revealed in next month's probe, or that revelation will be concealed. Either way, by this time next year, will Phillip Schofield have slipped quietly back to where he began, behind the microphone, minus his old mate Gordon the Gopher and just his oversized ego for company? If so, we think we'll give him a swerve. Please like and subscribe for more journeys through the Blinkerhole. For entertainment purposes only. Keep up to date with our latest investigations and hit the join button. If you like what we do, send us a super thanks. Official Blinkerhole merchandise is available in store.